If you've spent any time in the corners of YouTube that cover internet lulco-drama, DeviantArt horror stories, or the kind of cringe that lives rent-free in your brain for weeks, you've probably seen SolidMario come up. Maybe in comment sections, or maybe in dedicated videos like this.
Especially because sickos like SolidMario version 1, 2, or 3, or FunLover 2012, whatever name he goes by now, he's a terrible person. He's a p***, and he wants to have sex with Bart Simpson.
Now, I've covered many stories about weirdos with disgusting fetishes multiple times in the past. Still, I don't think I've seen anyone as depraved as SolidMario. This man spent years fantasizing, visualizing, and creating depraved art about his undying affection for the 10-year-old cartoon character Bart Simpson. Of course, being a pedophile wasn't his only sin. He was also called out for being a racist, a stalker, and an all-around degenerate who just didn't know when to stop. I'll get into all of that in a minute, but first, let me answer a crucial question. Who is SolidMario? His real name is Thomas Sebastian Lloyd, and he was popular on DeviantArt in the early 2000s. While I couldn't find much about his personal life, I discovered he had more than 23 DeviantArt aliases that were live at the same time. 23 unique accounts he used to go after anyone who spoke out against his degenerate behavior. And sometimes he just used these accounts to talk to himself, so it looked like he had loyal fans who supported his creepy lifestyle. I'll get into all the mess in this video, starting with the art that made him infamous in the first place. Let's dial time back to 2011, when SolidMario went to DeviantArt and started posting drawings of Bart Simpson. In some cases, he even made videos in which he awkwardly inserted himself into the scenes with Bart.
Well, Bart, any last words? Oh, I'm going to have so much fun with you, Bart. Think of the...
Now, to be clear, Simpsons fan art is completely normal. People have been drawing Bart, Homer, and the whole Yellow family since 1989. Entire art careers launched from Simpsons fandom. Fan art communities have been a staple of cartoon culture for decades, and you don't need to justify being a Simpsons fan. That's not the story here. The story here is that from the very beginning, SolidMario's art had a very specific bent. Instead of drawing Bart in funny situations or parodying Simpsons scenes the way virtually every other Simpsons fan artist was doing, he was drawing Bart Simpson naked, in mud, getting hosed down and sleeping with his pants just conveniently down. Bart was always posed in ways that served no satirical or creative function whatsoever. It wasn't fan art, it was something else entirely. SolidMario would find artists posting drawings of child characters and reach out to them to make art about Bart. He was operating in public, on a public platform, and he was not hiding what he was doing. It wasn't just the suggestive content of Bart alone. SolidMario also had several art pieces featuring Bart and Philip J. Fry from Futurama, with Fry cast as a caretaker or authority figure of Bart. In one particularly disturbing piece, Fry was in bed with Bart and the exchange went like this. Fry says, "Don't worry about your parents, I'm sure they'll work it out. Families argue." Bart says, "Glad I have you to keep me safe. It was horrible to see them fighting like that." Fry says, "I'm sure it was, Bart. If you ever need me, I'll be here for you, okay?" Bart says, "Okay," and there were many others like that. In another segment, Fry appeared concerned about Bart, and while the dialogue seemed normal, the images made people feel the wrong way. It just seemed like SolidMario was using Fry as a self-insert character to explore his fetish ideas with Bart. Fry: "Aw, what's the matter, Barty? What is it? Are you scared?" There, it's okay. Don't cry. I'm here. Now you're safe and here in my arms. Don't you cry. It will be okay. Brother Fry is here. I'll take good care of you. Everything will be fine. Brother Fry is right here." SolidMario framed these as friendship pictures whenever he was pressed. Still, between the images themselves and the comments he was leaving across the platform, that framing didn't survive contact with the content. These weren't friendship pictures. They were something else dressed up with plausible deniability, thin enough to see through. At one point, SolidMario also admitted in a private message that would later be made public that Bart was sexy to him. His exact words were, "I mostly draw Bart like that because they often do it in the show, too. Though I'll admit Bart is sexy. I've never been fully homo. I'm bisexual." Another time, he said, "Bart's Bert was cute," adding a disclaimer to his perversions. Thanks. Bart's got a nice butt, doesn't he? And I mean this in the most non-inappropriate way possible. Either way, he's cute, ain't he? I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you. He did not say this accidentally, not as a turn of phrase, but as a statement of how he experienced the character. That message would become central to what came next in his story. Whether his actions were due to a lack of self-awareness or simply not caring is a question we would never get an answer for, unfortunately. But one thing that makes the early period particularly striking in hindsight is just how long it went on before anyone with any reach noticed. DeviantArt at that time had millions of users, hundreds of thousands of active galleries, and a moderation infrastructure that was not equipped to actively police content at scale like modern platforms. So, this explains why SolidMario was able to get away with his shenanigans for so long. This would all change and things would take a much darker turn in 2012 when he caught the attention of a YouTuber who couldn't turn a blind eye. Blackbuster Critic, BBC as his audience called him, was a YouTuber known for a series called DeviantArt's, where he dug through DeviantArt looking for the most bizarre, disturbing, or offensive content the platform had quietly accumulated and then filmed himself going through it with commentary. He had covered Sonic fan drama, he had covered shipping wars and strange obsessive communities. He had a built-in audience that came specifically for these exposés. It was made up of people who wanted someone to narrate the weirdest edges of the internet back to them in real time. And in 2012, he eventually found SolidMario. He made a video, The Man Who Wants Intimacy with Bart Simpson, and it was exactly what that title implies. BBC pulled SolidMario's gallery, screenshotted his comments, read his image descriptions out loud, and walked through SolidMario's disturbing behavior in a way that made it impossible to dismiss any part of the content as innocent enthusiasm for a cartoon character.
The internet is a dark and terrible place, especially because sickos like SolidMario version 1, 2, or 3, or FunLover 2012, whatever name he goes by now, he's a terrible person. He's a foul, and he wants to have sex with Bart Simpson.
Before the full video even went live, BBC had already streamed a preview, specifically warning viewers that the content would be aggressively flagged by SolidMario and that they should expect the full video to disappear quickly. This turned out to be 100% true, but the warning itself got people paying attention, sharing links, looking for mirrors before the original even had time to settle. BBC gave SolidMario a chance to take down the Bart art before the video went live, but SolidMario wouldn't listen.
I gave him a chance to redeem himself. I told him, take down all your Bart pictures, stop obsessing over Bart Simpson, and get on with your life. Improve upon yourself and become a man.
BBC also played an audio message SolidMario had sent him. It was a Skype voicemail sent under the FunLover 2012 account name, in which SolidMario had issued a full apology. He admitted he'd been wrong. He said BBC had shown him the truth and the light. He promised to move on, to get a new life, a better life. He thanked BBC for the wake-up call.
BBC, this is FunLover 2012. I think I owe you an apology for what happened between us on DeviantArt. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you when you tried to tell me that I was doing something wrong. I'm sorry I argued with you and harassed you on an alternate account. I'm sorry for everything. You've shown me the truth. You've shown me the light. And now I'm just gonna move on and get a new life. A better life. Thank you. Again, I'm sorry.
Despite the apology, SolidMario went right back to posting Bart content anyway. It felt like he simply couldn't help himself. BBC pointed out an uncomfortable truth. It wasn't just SolidMario making disturbing art about underage characters. There were many other weirdos doing similar things. In fact, during SolidMario's reign, there was a network of DeviantArt users who shared disturbing fixations and hyped each other up in the comments. BBC identified several members of this network in his original video. Mojo Rocca was one of them. Rocca had physical books of Dora the Explorer that he would scan and then digitally edit, lifting shirts to show belly buttons, adding captions in the image descriptions inviting viewers to give her a poke or a tickle or a raspberry on her tummy. That is in the source material, and it is exactly as uncomfortable as it sounds. You know what? I am just going to show you. If you have little kids, two things are very common. 1, Dora the Explorer, and 2, belly buttons. This is a recolor of an image in one of the Dora books. I scanned a photo from, say, Dora Goes to the Doctor, then took that pose of Dora, which started as just a simple belly button peek and turned into a bigger thing. So I took her shirt and made it look like she pulled it up and her tummy is keeping up. So her tummy and her cute outie belly button are on display. This was kind of inspired by TayToonWeb, the one who makes the belly dancing pictures, and SolidMario, the one who does the Bart photos. Because let's face it, anytime a kid shows you their belly button, the heart just melts. And Dora is just that type too. There will be more Dora images, including one of just her belly button, so that you can use it on your next Dora picture. Feel free to give her a poke or a tickle or a raspberry on her tummy. When SolidMario saw this post, he could not resist. He immediately asked Rocca if he had ever considered making similar content with Bart. You think of doing any with Bart? Rocco replied, right now, I don't have anything with Bart in it, but if I do, you'll be first to know, and no problem. Then SolidMario said, thanks for mentioning me. Not a big Dora fan, but this is great. You would think his lack of interest in Dora was due to exclusive loyalty to Bart, but I think it had more to do with his sexual preference. On another occasion, he showed interest in a male character other than Bart. That character was Stevie from American Dad, posted by another weird DeviantArt user, and SolidMario liked it, according to the BBC.
So it's not just Bart, it's Stevie too. And I'm sure there's a slew of other young male characters that he just wants to take into his back office like a Catholic priest and say, trust me, young man, I'm gonna show you the will of God.
There were other accounts in the network too. One produced content BBC described as yaoi, romantic or sexual pairings of Alvin and Simon from Alvin and the Chipmunks, another pairing of Danny Phantom and Jake Long. These were all child characters from different shows, same general pattern. SolidMario engaged with all of it, left similar comments, and where possible brought everything back to Bart. The video by BBC spread quickly through niche internet communities. For the first time, SolidMario had an audience that was paying attention, but that audience was not on his side. Public reaction to the video was brutal, as expected, with comments like, you know, I have always known that art sites have some weirdos or creeps lurking about, but man, people like this creature need to be locked up. Thank God he was mostly gone by the time I got my own DeviantArt account. Another person said, fictional or not, liking an underage cartoon character is still predatory. If Mario existed in the Simpsons universe, he would have been beaten by Homer and Marge. SolidMario panicked and waged a full-blown war on BBC. He used multiple accounts to flag the original video for containing child pornography. Child pornography that he himself had created, by the way. He kept posting comments like, this video is filled with harassment and CP. Eventually, YouTube took the video down from BBC's page, but BBC re-uploaded it to blip.tv, then to Dailymotion. Then other people started mirroring it in forums and video archives that SolidMario had no ability to manipulate. SolidMario's flagging campaign only brought more light to his Degenerate story. Every time someone new wrote about his attempts to suppress it, a new audience found out the video existed and went looking for the re-uploads. He also started sending emails to BBC containing what were essentially death delivered alongside memes. He even used one of his alt accounts to post racist slurs about BBC. Fuck this for making a fool out of poor old SolidMario and stealing and vandalizing everything SolidMario worked so hard to create. I hope Blackbuster Critics burns in hell for this. All of SolidMario's DeviantArt alt accounts were cycling at a pace that had become hard to track. He used SolidMario V2, SolidMario V3, and FunLover 2012. There was also JackRoundRunner, an account that appeared to be a neutral third party publicly searching for SolidMario and wondering where he had gone, operated transparently by SolidMario and Megatroll1. The alt accounts weren't subtle in any way. SolidMario's writing style, his phrasing, the arguments he made, and the specific way he structured his defenses were consistent enough across every account that people identifying the alts in real time weren't working very hard before exposing him. They would read one comment, say that's him, and be exactly right. The alts served two purposes: to flood comment sections under the BBC's video with negative reviews and to defend SolidMario in public spaces wherever his name came up. In a bid to fix his reputation, SolidMario would post as himself, then post a reply from an alt account agreeing with himself, then add another reply from a different alt account adding supporting points. On one occasion, he started by calling out BBC. I can't believe the asshole from Kiwi Farms is continuing his work by making an ED page on poor Solid. How can people do this to such a sweet guy? He didn't do anything wrong. Why do people hate that he cares about Bart so much? He doesn't deserve this. That bio of him that Emperor Luca Solo wrote, which was put on Pastebin by someone, is truer than anything any troll will ever say about him. From the happy beginnings to the sad tragedy of his life being torn apart by Blackbuster Critic and other internet meanies, all of it, it's all true. I mean, it was so obvious it was SolidMario. Absolutely nobody thought BBC was being unfair for calling him out. At least no sane person would support SolidMario's behavior and publicly defend him. To make the story more believable, SolidMario replied with another alt account saying, I guess this account is dead. It's a shame really. I was hoping that the BBC would confront Princess Elizabeth 013. Using yet another account, SolidMario said, You support the man who killed SolidMario. In another case, he posted from his Darth Chaos X account saying, Dang it, SolidMario. How many times have I told you not to operate my account? Now we'll never convince them we're different. Then he replied with his Kalubian Kitten account saying, How way? you're the same person, and that ghostly trickster man proves it. Things like these kept coming up again and again, and each time he got caught, he went radio silent for a while before returning with the same behavior. SolidMario also vandalized wikis. The lolcow wiki, Encyclopedia Dramatica, drafts about him and Simpson's adjacent discussion pages. He blanked sections that mentioned his derangement, leaving edit summaries describing his removal of documented content as censorship of incrimination. He thought that was a reasonable thing to write when explaining why he deleted factual information about himself from a public wiki. The problem was that SolidMario thought that if you blanked a paragraph from a wiki article, that paragraph stopped existing. But wiki articles have complete, publicly visible edit histories. Every deletion is logged with a timestamp and attributed to the account or IP address that made it. When Lloyd blanked sections of his Encyclopedia Dramatica page and his lolcow wiki entry, those edits were reversed within hours, and the edit history itself became new content. But he didn't stop here. There was also the Kiwi Farms thread where SolidMario found relevance again. Kiwi Farms is basically a forum built around documenting people who have generated substantial internet drama, usually through erratic public behavior, poor crisis management, or repeated self-inflicted visibility that makes them what the community calls lolcows. So it wasn't a surprise when SolidMario's name found its way there. The first SolidMario's thread on Kiwi Farms was created in 2014, and for a couple of years it was basically dormant. It was just 2 pages and a handful of people had noted the BBC video, documented the obvious alt accounts, shared a few screenshots, and moved on. Without new material from SolidMario, there was nothing to update. The thread sat there, complete but small, waiting for the perfect drama. And then SolidMario found it. He replied to a comment that had been sitting there for 9 months, untouched, using the alias User Anonymous. People identified User Anonymous as one of his accounts within hours. Rather than step back at that point, SolidMario escalated. He started arguing with users who were quite clearly just baiting him. In another thread from 2017, someone asked SolidMario if he was on the spectrum. "Are you on the spectrum? That's actually a serious question." He replied, "Yes, I am on the spectrum. And let me tell you, though many of you know this already, it's not a very good kind of personality to have." I'll acknowledge that being on the spectrum may explain why SolidMario doesn't seem to understand the gravity of his Bart fetish in social settings, but that's not an excuse. He posted from multiple accounts throughout the thread, trying to create the impression that he had supporters. He demanded the thread be deleted. The thread grew significantly, almost entirely driven by SolidMario's continued participation. Users would post something and then wait. SolidMario would reply within a day or two, sometimes within hours, under one account or another. Each time he did something weird or told an unrealistic story about himself, users would drag him for weeks. The most recent trolling section kicked off when SolidMario told a bogus story about spending the night on a bed with his roommate. When people started trolling him and calling him a homosexual, he tried to take it back. "It was only once. We don't even live in the same house. The sharing the same bed as roommates thing was a lie." One person replied, "It was 8 guys to begin Thomas on vacation from France. Remember your story? We do." SolidMario tried to convince everyone that he was telling the truth for once. "Dude, I'm telling the truth for once. I lied about the whole sharing the bed with 8 guys thing. I live alone, always have." Another person said, "Thomas Lloyd is a massive so anyone who wants to scream at him for being a giant tub of lard can do so here. All information and discussion of this fatty can be done in his main thread." It just went on and on because Thomas couldn't stop himself from replying. Eventually, he pivoted to YouTube and started making video content, but his YouTube channels didn't make much progress. No one knows what SolidMario is up to these days, but at least he's not making weird comments about having sexual interest in a 10-year-old cartoon character. It seems the public shaming finally drove SolidMario out of the internet, unlike the next DeviantArt weirdo on my list, who is still posting disturbing content to this day.